It's really very, very dull when after all these years in public life, you're known for two things: Ray-Ban sunglasses and chocolate chip ice cream. Very dull president.
Now more with Gallo. What the? SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Hunchers in the basement with a silver spoon. The hookers and drugs were gonna be there soon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when.
I'll be good and high by then, Dad. Yeah, I'll be good and high by then.
I'm very proud of my son.
My son came around just the other day. He said, I got me a deal where we can both get paid. Can I trade on your name? I said, sure, okay. Will anyone know? He said, no way. And as he walked away, he looked kind of dim and said, I'm gonna be like him, yeah. You know I'm gonna be like him.
He's fixed it. I know how to game the system. Come on.
Well, it came from Kiev just
All right, we got to get busy here. It's probably going to climb up to number one on the charts very soon. It's Cats in the Cradle, a different version. Live from the Trustmark studios of the Gallo Show, and I thank you for joining us on a Monday. If you're setting up a savings goal, talk to the Trustmark team. They have a plan that will fit your goals. 2AT as in Trustmark, people you trust. Advice that works, member FDIC. And on with me is State Senator Jeremy England. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Paul. Let me say good morning to my kids, Levi and Grace, and their friends, Savannah and Caleb, on their way to school this morning.
Duly noted, and we march on. Right. By the way, are they okay at school? I mean, all these kids, just the long summer. And I see more and more of them going to the other format, and I think when people do that, they're going to love it, but it's just hard to get it done.
Yeah, well, look, it's too hot for them to be home and be outside anyways. They might as well be in school and get a good fall break.
They're going to be in the air conditioning one way or the other. All right, how does this stack up now? I mean, tomorrow's a big day. It's been a contentious race. Anytime Chris McDaniel is in a race, there's always a contention one way or the other. But your thoughts and a little follow-up from you making national news in that wonderful outfit. And I guess I would be remiss to not ask you what the total is so far as your drive for the breast cancer research.
Yeah, right, Paul. Hey, look, we've raised over $7,000 at this point in just a couple of weeks, so we've done really good. And you know, I like to think I've raised more money, or I guess more clean money than the Chris McDaniel campaign has, and I've done it with more transparency. So that's been a really good fundraiser for me. I never thought wearing that outfit would be the one that would get me national news, but here we are. And look, heading into tomorrow, I'll just say real quick how important it is for everybody to get out and vote. I think that in Mississippi, we're all tired of this branding of politics that we're getting from Chris McDaniel. We're tired of the mudslinging, and I mean, it happens every time that he runs for office, and it's just getting old. We're ready to get to policy. We're ready to keep working for the people of Mississippi, and the way that we're going to do that is show up at the polls tomorrow and vote for Delbert Hosemann and vote against Chris McDaniel.
I got to be honest with you, because over the weekend I was consumed with this from calls and everything else. I'm a little baffled on two things. When Delbert was on with me, I pressured him, and he knows this. I wasn't happy with a couple of the appointments on a couple of committees for the McDaniels campaign to basically say that all of the 13 or 16 or whatever it was that he appointed were in major committees is laughable, because there were only maybe 2 or 3, and I had issue with David Blunt simply because David Blunt didn't know squat about the casino industry, and I thought the casino industry was more important than that. And also Hob Bryan, who's always been a stalwart or a difficult to deal with. I don't disagree that he knows a lot about that particular committee, but that was my disagreement, not with all of the people that he appointed, because as was noted, and I think you noted this, that actually Tate Reeves had appointed more Democrats than he did.
That's right. Yeah. In Tate Reeves' first term, he had 17 Democrat chairmen, and then his second term, he had 13, which is exact number that we have right now, which is also 13. So we've got the lowest number of Democrat chairmen. And look, our system doesn't work like Washington, and I think that's important for your listeners to understand. We don't have the partisan back and forth just deadlock that you have in Washington, nor do we want that. You know, I think that Chris McDaniel wants us to see that happen, but we get things done. We're working for the people of Mississippi here, and that's a great thing. And if I could just say, I heard Chris McDaniel say that we have too many committees, but Paul, he voted for the number of committees we had in the rules. We have 45 committees. Yeah. I went back and checked. It was Senate, Senate Resolution number 1 back in 2020, and Chris McDaniel voted for it. So he's not had an issue with this until it comes up. And I know that we've said this a lot. The guy just doesn't work. He's never there. He's not there in the Capitol. And I've had very good bills, conservative bills, that I've been able to work through these Democrat committees. I had one that came out of Hob Bryan's committee, and I had one that came out of my buddy Derek's committee. So, you don't have to. You have to work, and that's the primary thing that I think people need to understand, that we need workers in the legislature. We're getting paid taxpayer dollars. It's important for us to do the people's work there, and Chris McDaniel doesn't do that.
I had a conversation a long, long time ago with someone, because I mentioned on the air, says it's a great thing when the legislators do not offer any bills at all, and they can stay there for their whole term and not be noticed. Somebody called me on the carpet for that, and I said, I appreciate it, because I never thought about this. And the thought was that the reason the number of good bills that you have produced, or at least you've forwarded, and had the workmanship to work this all the way through, it's not easy. But in 16 years, the reason I was called on the carpet for this many, many years ago by a very smart individual, a lot older than I was then, said, because you're representing your people, all of the people there. There may be issues that need to be brought up. That's why you're there. This issue, whether it's pertaining to your school, whether it's from your municipality, whether it's from your county, a supervisor, a mayor, they need help. And you are the ones going to bring that to the legislature. And in 16 years, what you've had a couple of resolutions. I mean, so the people of that district ought to look at this and say, well, you know what? Guess what? There probably were some things that needed to be done that were not done.
That's right. Yeah. Look, we're there to do a job. And the fact is, Paul, we're getting paid, obviously it's not a lot. It's a part-time legislature that we have here in Mississippi. But the people expect us to do that. We get presented with bills, and the folks that give those to us. Look, I had a perpetual care cemetery bill that was very important. It was the first meeting I had right after I took office. And within 2 years, I had a bill passed to help those people out. That was very important to them. And there's still some work we've got to do on it. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to work on it. I'm going to talk with my chairman. And look, that's the bill that I helped, that I had help from Senator Derek Simmons. It was his municipality committee. Democrat chairman talked with me, let me come present it in his committee, because I went and asked. We can't just drop bills like Senator McDaniel does and expect them to just, oh my gosh, they're the best bills ever. We need to pass these. No, you've got to go talk to your chairman. You've got to talk to your fellow senators. Then you've got to go talk to your House members. And Paul, he doesn't do that. He's just, he's perpetually absent from the Capitol. And all of us that work there know that.
I also don't understand the brouhaha in the Madison situation on the judicial redistricting and things such as that, because Delbert has said more than once that this was not something that he was considering. But even if he was, I mean, this is not a decision that the lieutenant governor makes. It's a legislative decision, is it not?
That's right, Paul. It would be a legislative decision. We would have to talk about it. And look, we have not talked about it. And if I can just tell you what I think happened there, my first year, I had this lady send a message into me in the Capitol and said, hey, I want to visit with you about something that's important to me. And I walked out and took that meeting, and the lady talked to me about why she thought polygamy should be legal, not illegal. She wanted polygamy legal. So I went and took the meeting, listened to her, and I said, okay, well, look, thanks for sharing those thoughts with me. And I walked back in. Okay, that is absolutely an asinine idea, but I think that's what happened here.
Yeah. The headline was, England considering polygamy.
That's right. See, that's exactly how that kind of stuff happens, and people that know me and people that know my record would understand. Look, that is just false, and I think that the mayor there in Madison should have picked up on that and understood that this is not anything that's been discussed or going to be discussed.
There was another story not pertaining to this one, but hang on here. Was it the federal district court or district court has on the. Where is it here? Oh, here it goes. A ruling on Friday by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals overturned a Mississippi law that prevents certain convicted felons from having the right to vote. Are you aware of that and that ruling on Friday?
No, I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, Paul, so I don't know. I don't know exactly what that ruling says.
The ruling backs up a lawsuit filed by 6 convicted felons in 2018 and claims that Mississippi voter disenfranchisement law is a direct violation of the 8th Amendment. This was handed down on Friday. There are 22 felonies in total that currently bar convicted felons the right to vote in our state. Most people understand those: arson, armed robbery, bigamy, bribery, embezzlement. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Rape, carjacking, etc. The court-issued mandate is scheduled August 28th. All right, let's return to Jeremy England, Senator England. Also, one other thing too is on this the initiative process. It was kind of weird going back through and taking a look at this, because I'm of the opinion, and this is just my personal opinion, I want it to be harder for the things to wind up on a ballot. And the reason I do is because today, with all the money that's out there, social media and everything else, it's easier to coordinate with money coming from out of state and elsewhere and attack to get things like a multitude of different things. Number one, the Medicaid expansion was one of the things that was headed for that. Of course, recreational marijuana. It's one of the things I think is pushing the McDaniels campaign to a point. And there are several other things, but I just thought it should be harder. And am I right about this, that the Senate version made it a little more difficult than the House version?
Yes, Paul, it did. Our version made it a little bit more difficult. The House version, I think, was way too easy, and we're working towards a solution. It's a multi-year process sometimes with legislation to get it right, and that's something that's very important to get right. And look, since you bring up the initiative process, I would just mention that the mayor that filed the lawsuit that took everybody's initiative process away was Mayor Mary there in Madison, that endorsed Chris McDaniel yesterday. So how odd is that you've got him railing against the initiative process, and then the mayor that actually was responsible for us losing that is the one that endorsed him.
You are not the only person that's used the phrase politics makes strange bedfellows in this particular case. Well, here's the other thing on that one, too. It also made it easier for unions to, from my understanding, the House version made a little bit more incentives for unionization, and that would have eaten away or probably destroyed our right to work in the state of Mississippi. So, in my view, I thought the Senate version was better than the House version.
Yeah, look, I agree, Paul. And anytime you have a lot of money, and look, Chris McDaniel's campaign is being funded by dark money from out of state right now. So we see what that can do. And you have a lot of dark money, and you can sway public sentiment in a way that gets by the legislative process. That's dangerous. We're a very deliberative body that we have there in Jackson, and it's supposed to take time. It's supposed to take debate and things. In this initiative process, if we're not careful, that'll take that all away from us.
I do honestly, though. I care about this state, and I look at this. To be honest with you, also, I look at what's going on a national basis, and I see with all of the success that this president has had in 4 years, tremendous success against all the adversity and the attacks he has on him now. And then I also look at, and I wasn't happy with everything Trump did. I wasn't happy with everything any politician has ever done, and I voiced my opinion on that one. But it seems like kind of the same thing going on as far as Hosemann as lieutenant governor. And can anybody question the success he had, historic success, as the Secretary of State with voter ID and other things?
That's a very good point, Paul. And, he served very well as Secretary of State. We had an office that was, basically put in order. We were brought online. We've got voter ID with Secretary of State Hosemann. He took state property and made sure that the people were getting money where they were, losing it before for state property. So we had good things happen there. And then he's done good things. We've done good things when he's been lieutenant governor. My favorite thing that we probably did last year, in the last 2 years, we haven't borrowed any money in the last 2 years, and we've paid off 12% of our state's debt. I mean, we are really getting our fiscal house in order under this lieutenant governor. And like you say, he's not getting credit because he's got an opponent that's just wanting to sling mud and try to paint him as something that he's not.
Jeremy, not to say that doesn't bring you enemies. When you try to go and tell somebody who's had a hunting club and literally 1,000 acres or more, whatever it happens to be, in a very good hunting club, in a pristine, prime place in the countryside, and it's been in your family for a long time as far as the lease, and all of a sudden you have a Secretary of State saying, $1 an acre is a little low market value. You're going to have to pay more. That made some enemies also. We understood that, but look at the money that schools across the state got.
That's right. Yeah, look, it might upset the folks in the hunting club for a little bit, but it's not going to upset them when their kids have teachers that are well paid and doing good. And it's that's state property. That's not even the hunting club's property. And look, I get it. You got a great sweetheart deal and you lost it, but it's the right thing to do. And I think that's something that we need legislators and state officials to focus on. Sometimes the right thing to do is not popular, but we still do it.
It was a couple of things, though, and somebody mentioned this over the weekend, and I reshared that interview back in the last campaign, and there were some questions that just never have been fully answered, I think. And one of the questions happened to be as far as why in the world did he not know what was going on as far as that break-in is concerned at the nursing home, and to tell me and the people of the state on the air that when Melanie Call, by the way, she probably, if he wins, would be second in charge, but that's another story. Where in the world were you when she tried to call you? And he said he didn't answer the phone. He basically said when he did the next morning that don't tell me about anything like that until I get dressed and drive to where you are, and we'll talk about it later. That didn't make sense. And plus, the other thing is when he told me recently in an interview that when the lieutenant governor, who was Secretary of State, questioned some of those campaign contributions, he just willingly returned them just to be nice, which gutted his campaign treasury at that particular time. I have a hard time believing that.
Yeah, look, I heard the interview when that came out, and he said, "Yeah, look, we just didn't want them to have the talking points, so we gave all this money back." Yeah, right. I mean, you were holding on to illegal money. You got caught holding on to the bag, and you sent it back because that was the best thing you could do to keep yourself out of legal trouble.
I don't even know. The third thing is, and I have no idea, I think Tim Kalich had a great article on the housing situation and who lives in that house and his residents, but that's another story. But those are questions that a lot of people want to have answered. And again, tomorrow is kind of late because the polls open at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, that's right. But look, this kind of thing comes up every time Chris McDaniel runs for office. And look, best case, he didn't know anything about it, but he just inspires that kind of politics and that kind of person to go do something like that. Worst case, he knew exactly what was going on, but he had somebody that he was able to, turn into a patsy and drop like a bad habit the next day and act like he didn't have anything to do with it. But either way, this happens every time he runs, Paul, and he's the common denominator in the worst part of politics, the worst brand of politics we have in the state. And I'm ready for us to take out the trash tomorrow at the polls and go vote for Delbert Hosemann.
The one question on C Spire text line is, can independents vote? Yes, they can vote. Yes. We don't have a party label. I think you can vote any way you want to. The only criteria here is the way you vote. If there's a runoff, you got to vote for in that same party. In other words, if you vote tomorrow as for Republicans, then you've got, if it's a runoff, you have to vote in that runoff as a Republican or a Democrat. And then in the general election, you can vote either way you want to, of course. Right?
That's right, Paul. Look, when you go to the polls tomorrow, you're going to be asked if you want a Republican ballot or a Democrat ballot. You don't have to show a card. We don't have party cards or anything, but you're going to get that ballot. You can request either ballot, but like you say, if there's a runoff and you vote a Republican ballot, then you have to go back and vote in the Republican runoff. You can't switch parties at that time. That is illegal, so nobody should do that. And look, Michael Watson, our Secretary of State, has a great website up that answers a lot of these questions. So I would encourage folks to look at that.
You got it. Any other feedback that you've had since the last time we were on when we were talking about this, or any negative things that have happened?
Well, look, the negative things definitely happen. Anytime you go up against Chris McDaniel, negative things are going to happen because people look at him as their general, and they're wanting to be in the war. And regardless of how many followers they have, they're going to try to attack you. But I will tell you that I have had a lot more positive feedback on this. I've had a lot more people tell me, look, we're with you. We're tired of this brand of politics. We think we've got Mississippi going in the right direction, and we want to keep it going that way. And they're going to go out and join me in voting for Delbert Hosemann tomorrow.
I agree the same thing. It's not anywhere near the vitriol it was the last time. But, of course, you still got them some, like 662 Hosemann paying Gallo, or 662, hey, Paul, did Hosemann ever pay you off this morning? Red in Lumberton. No, Red, he didn't pay me off this morning. Thank you very much. Part of politics, right. Isn't it? That's right. The spice in it. That's what makes it. So,
yep.
Jeremy, thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much. Any final words here? Final thoughts?
Yep, just looking forward to a good turnout tomorrow. I hope everybody gets out and votes tomorrow, 7 to 7.
I do too.
Is when the polls are open.
If not, Wednesday's going to look quite differently, and we'll see what happens with that. Jeremy England, Mississippi Senator District 51. Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it very much, sir. Thanks for taking the time.